G'day, guys, and welcome back to Season 4, Episode 12 of the Supercoach Swordplay podcast. You're on with me, Janath, and I'm joined by my great mate, DR. Spills will be joining soon as well, so the three amigos will be back together again. Just very quickly, had a good weekend, DR. The three of us got together at yours. Was quite the afternoon, I must say. Jeremy McGovern wasn't looking too flash when I was at yours, but he did pull through in the end.
I was very, very happy for you, mate. But no, it was awesome to catch up with you two lads. Spills obviously be joining us in a sec, as you mentioned, mate. But no, great to catch up on the Saturday. Unfortunately, the games weren't overly Supercoach relevant for us. It was on the Sunday where those games seemed to be more relevant. But great to catch up with you. You're such a lovely human, mate. Bought River down some of the biscuits, and he's still munching into those, mate. He's got a taste for those, so I need to find out where you got them from because
Sri Lanka. I'll tell you that's where you got them from.
Sri Lanka. Jeez, mate, you've made that one easy just up the road for me, mate. Oh no, Lisa's great. You said, "I'll make sure you ask Janath where he got them from." I'm like, "Yep, awesome. We'll buy in bulk next time, even if it's an hour trip. We'll go there because he loves them that much. Just up to Sri Lanka. No worries, mate.
There are some good Sri Lankan shops down your way, though, mate. So don't you worry.
Oh, excellent. So I don't need to make that much of a trip. Beautiful.
But nah, other than that, mate, had a good weekend.
No, brilliant. And great to see you guys, mate. Really, really was. And look, the Good Friday appeal here, brother. How's this going? $180. Absolutely stoked at the moment, mate. Absolutely stoked. You can see Nicky Boy there. And we've also got some legends that we'll be adding to the Wall of Fame very, very soon as well, mate.
Yeah, and if you guys want to copy a beanie, supercoachswordplay.com. From what we can tell, shipping 2 days, bang, beanie at your door. So apologies, just very quickly, apologies to anyone that's bought a t-shirt, a hoodie, a notebook. We really do apologize for unforeseen circumstances with those products. Just with our merch supply, some unfortunate events have happened. So we're really looking into trying to fix that up soon. Just working on the run here. The beanies are okay, but the other stuff, we'll just really try to get that to you as soon as possible. I know some of you guys have been waiting a while, but we promise to make up for it in the long run as well. But without further ado, let's look into this Wall of Fame. Sheesh, there's some good looking blokes on here.
Oh, isn't there? You know, we've got some wonderful, wonderful people here. We've already talked about Katter and Deal and Nicky Martin and a few of these other legends, but we've got our brother Roscoe here. So Roscoe, and I'll tell you what, with Roscoe, I love the old school jacket there. The Pura Milk cannot beat that. And I'll tell you what, isn't that a nice match with the Swordplay beanie? He's got the colours working there somehow, Roscoe. So, yeah, thank you very much for your support, mate. And
good win on the weekend as well.
Oh, brilliant. We win on the weekend.
For Jono as well.
Happy. Up and about. Both boys will be up and about. Both boys, mate. And Jules, a.k.a. Crazy Frogs, one of our favourites. He's a man known for his pods. He was looking to get Tomahawk in on the weekend. I don't know if he went there. I think it might have been Salem that he went with. And I think he was pretty happy. So shout out to you, brother. I've also had Jules on the podcast as well before. Former number one for, I think it was about 3 weeks in a row. So does know his stuff and loves the pod, does Jules. And the other legend we have to add to the wall this week is Mitch. Mitch has been a wonderful supporter of the podcast. Again, just an absolute ripping bloke. Asks questions, gives advice as well, and always been a great supporter of all of us. So thank you very much, Mitch, and thank you to all of legends that have bought a beanie so far, supporting a great cause, giving us a little bit of a head wobble, and they are fantastic quality. I'm not biased in saying that. They are the best quality beanies that you will find. So thank you very much.
Speaking of head wobbles, how many of you would be interested in Supercoach Swordplay bobbleheads? Leave it down in the comments, and we'll see if we can source some out.
You know I collect toys, Janath. So
that's it. I know you're a fan, dear. All right, well, let's get into the meat of this podcast. Then we'll go into our round reviews. I'll start off with you, DR. Top of the pod for this week. Chat us through what went down in the first week for the buys, mate.
Look, it wasn't a disaster, as you can see. It's always really hard to tell the buys, isn't it? Where you're actually looking in regards to the round ranks. And I suppose the other day was pretty solid. My worst buy is certainly round 14. So this wasn't a terrible one. But remember, I recently did invest into this buy with your Zorko and your Fisher. So given the fact I did that in the last couple of weeks, I'm really, really happy with this score, knowing that they'll be able to cover for the next 3 buys, mate. So 2058, as you can see on the screen, inside the top 1,500. So again, it was a couple of weeks ago. I think I was around the 2K mark. Goal after the buys is to get inside that top 1K. So heading in the right direction at the moment, but I think a lot of that will hinge on what I do in round 14, mate. But a very late change in regards to buys. And we were talking on the weekend, weren't we? How many times have we actually gone through with the trades that we put here at the end of this podcast? Not too many, I don't think, but things happen, don't they, towards the end of the week? We don't have access to team sheets at this stage of recording or time of recording. So a lot of things do happen, but ended up bringing Nettie Moyle into the side for Jordan Sweet and got Sam Darcy out and got Jolie Boy in. So pretty happy with that. Banked about 300 odd K, ready to select one of the big 7 this week that we'll be talking about in great depth. You've done some wonderful work on the big 7 and looking forward to deep diving into that, mate. But all in all, pretty good for this week. I think it's the easy buy. Just got to prepare for that round 14 one, mate. How about yourself, brother? We can see a slight red arrow, but look, you're not complaining with this rank still, are you?
No, not at all. So much like yourself, D, I sort of invested into this round with Zorko, Fisher, as late sort of inclusions. And I guess one of my big pods and Luke Davies, Uniacke LDU has this buy as well. So It was what I considered to be my worst buy. So only going down 6 spots was probably very fortunate. I guess some of the big guns like Harley Reid going backwards in the second half, Zach Merritt having a untypically quiet fourth quarter, Clayton Oliver not going all too well. So sort of played into my favor a little bit. But again, so the trades I made last week was Gov and Jeremy McGovern, Joel Freyer, and Kane McAuliffe in. Yeah, that trade was looking very inspired at halftime when he was on 67. Just have a 1 point second half. Great work, mate. And out went Sam Darcy, Joe Richards, and Jordan Sweet. So I crunched the numbers because on the potty last week I was saying I'm pretty set on doing Richards to Freya. Now, if I stuck with just that trade, I would have had 85 points less than if I went through with the 3 of them. And given round 14 only have one of those mids, so only Tuke Miller, it sort of felt okay to bring in the Gov at that stage. So it was sort of a long-term play of things. And this plan that I might talk about a bit later in the trade section revolves around not trading next week and setting myself up for after the round 14 buy. So we'll chat there. But if you shave 85 points off this score, that brings it down to 1,900 and what? Sorry, I can't do maths at the moment. 52, 48, 1,948. And that's probably a subpar score at the rank I am at. And so it's all about keeping the momentum going, the upgrade cadence going. And that's why I went that way. VC Dacos, we didn't talk about the VCs, DR, but you've got to talk me through what on earth went down on Friday night with your team. I VC Dacos, and I felt like a loser at the end of Friday night. You felt like a winner. Explain yourself, mate.
I got lucky, but not. That's what I'm going to say, right? So big shout out to B James P. He's a regular on YouTube comments, and I did the live stock market stream because I couldn't upload it, and big story, couldn't get it up to YouTube, so ended up doing it live. And then towards the end of the stream, BP ended up putting a comment out saying that his housemate is best friends with Gallagher, who's going to be putting a hard tag on Dacos, and I'm like, I'm flustered now. What do? I've just locked in Dacos, and all of a sudden I'm like, do you know what? I'm going with my man here because people are going, I reckon it's just BS. I'm like, no, he's a regular. I trust this man. I'm going with it. I'm going to switch to Dacos. I'm going to do the pod move switch to Bond and go the pod move there. And in all honesty, right, I was waiting right until the first bounce, and I saw Treloar go to him, and I'm like, abort mission, go back to Dacos, and I was locked out. And for 3 quarters, I was spewing. I was dirty as going, what have I done? This is just shambles. I'm going to lose out. And then Mr. Bond just decides to basically double his score in the last quarter. I'll tell you what, mate, I got a sore head because I did hit the roof. I was just all over the shop. It was brilliant. So a little bit lucky, but it is what it is, mate. You got to take the luck when you got it, mate. So
I'll
very
tell
happy
you
with
what,
that.
two things. Your source might be correct. Gallagher was on him, but half the time when Gallagher was on him, he was just pushing Nick Dacos in the back or holding him off the ball without the ball. He was at centre bounces without tagging Nick Dacos. I don't think he's ever played as a tagger, Harvey Gallagher. So
What was he
learn
doing? Yeah.
He's just
Nicky
gotta
was
learn.
having a laugh.
But yeah, so look, you'd say you're happy with where you're at. 3 rounds to go in the buys. You've made progress. So right now, 305 spots up. Looking to work into that top 1K. I think you're well on your way, mate. And Spills, look, I think for him as well, he's not here yet, but I think 1971 respectable score, and I think he's in line to make a big upgrade. We'll hopefully get him in for the top 7 chat, because I think we all need to sort of nut it through and figure out exactly which way to go in. 3 of us here.
Absolutely, mate. That's going to be a big topic for this week. But Spilsy he's getting back here. I think this was one of his weaker buys as well, which was good. So that's another thing got to take into account. Normally, they've got a weaker buy, strong buy. So yeah, you can't take too much from the rankings this week. But the fact that you mentioned that this was your weakest buy, you've got a really solid score and only gone down 6 spots in the ranking points. You're in a very good spot, brother. And you're in a very good spot here. 26,480 for top 300 rank. I'm coming in next at under 1,500 now, which is really nice. 14.32. And Spilsy, he's getting back up 7,616. And Janath, we're going to this, mate. This is my rant. Now, for anyone that tuned in last week, I gave Spilsy a little bit of a rocket and was very hypocritical, talking about mental health, and I'll just give him one. And Janath, you know how much I love you, mate. You do. I've got great love for you. You are my brother. But come on, mate. Now, give us an absolute spell. There was one particular league that it's a really competitive league that I really, really want to win. And I was home and hosed. I'd say what, with 6 minutes to go in this game, I was absolutely home and hosed. Took Miller. Janath. What? I checked. So I'm looking at top 1%. I'm like, all right, where is Yonti at? And I looked at his ownership. I'm like, oh, I was licking my lips, rubbing my hands together, going, here we go. I'm going to really get a decent jump in the ranks here, because he's a pretty popular player in that upper echelon, and he's up for an absolute stinker. But no,
it was a stink, all right.
a cheap 50 walks into goal. Like the easiest goal you've ever. We're not talking Eddie Betts goal, the left foot torpedo type stuff, or we're not talking great acts like this. A dodgy 50 strolls in and kicks the easiest goal you've ever seen in your life. What was it? 50 odd points.
He got 50 points in the last 5.5 minutes after he came back on. It was, the amount of the urge that it was like, okay, if Touk finished on 57, what's his price going to be? That's where I was 5.5 minutes to go in the game. You can't have a primo 57 in a crunch game like this. Like, come on.
It was Dawson. It was Touk. It was just lining up for me this week. And that's a point, isn't it, mate? It's not always the way that your players go. You're often worried about how other players are going that you don't own, because that also affects your ranks. The Dawson stinkers, that's great for non-owners. That's fantastic for blokes like me. And, I suppose more of the pod types in the top 1%, like your Bailey Dale, for example, I think he's under 25%. Him going really well is fantastic for me. So, damn you, Touk. I'd love Touk, the trademark. I've got great love for the man. I've got great love for you too, Janath. But bugger you two this week. Absolute highway robbery this. Got out of jail. You got the Lego one. You got the gold one.
This is my sacrifice. We're bringing back the sacrifice for 1 week.
There we go. You were doing so. You got that out in the last 6 minutes, didn't you, mate? I don't know what you were doing with that, but I tell you.
This is the voodoo.
Oh, mate. Congratulations, mate. Given the fact you've got him, very, very happy for you, mate.
Very quick rant as well. I'm just going to have a very quick cook on one of the players is in your rant, and you can probably predict who this is going to be at. He's one of our boys, and look, Nicky Martin. I know you wore Swordplay beanie last week.
You're not.
Come on. You cannot be rolling into goal 15 meters out and try to kick it out of the stadium and hit it into the post. Like, every point we get from you, man, is like treasure because Jordan Ridley's killed your role. You're turning the ball over still. You cannot be kicking it into the post from 15 meters out, mate. Like, come on. Okay,
Come on,
that's my
boy.
very quick one, Nicky Martin. Get your head in the game. Don't go too big on our boys this week, though. So take it easy, man.
Nicky. We love you, mate, but come on, what was?
Come on.
Jeez, wasn't as bad as Cameron Lings, I suppose. But anyway, let's move on, mate, to the injuries. We've got this man here that you can see on the screen with a sling. It's Mr. Matthew Crouch. Now, I feel really, really sorry for owners here because for me, this guy was an absolute hold, potentially for the season. He's scoring as well as many other premiums in the game, and I think that many were viewing him just as that maybe short-term or medium-term type selection, then we look to move him on. But in recent form and in current form, I really don't think that there was any real reason to want to move him on. But unfortunately, we're no good, mate. We're no good. He's now out. He's got surgery. So I think he's now a must trade out. There's no way that you want him. A shoulder out for the season, Janath. So super frustrating for Matt Crouch owners. You know, you're hoping to cover for this week.
That's it, mate.
And for the next buy as well. But unfortunately, mate, he is gone. So not much you can do about that.
Ramifications, I think, from this, mate. So you think Jordan Dawson's stock go up?
Yeah,
Jordan Dawson probably gets a big tick. Isaac Rankin after the bye, I think, is going to be a must-have forward. Does Josh Rochelle get more mid-time? And there's been big raps on Billy Dowling to debut this week from the NFL. 123.9K. If anyone's interested, I would recommend going and have a listen to the Phantom podcast because obviously they're a South Australian-based podcast and he knows everything about Billy Dowling clearly. So go and have a listen, a bit more detail about Dowling. But yeah, he really big raps. Adelaide supporters have been wanting him to debut for a long time now. So one to just watch, and I think we'll talk about this in the rookies, DR. But his bubble game will line up with after their bye. So I think with the DPP, the forward mid DPP is definitely one that we'll be wanting as sort of our last sort of rookie in our final upgrade, I reckon.
Very handy, my friend. Someone's joined us. He's just slipped in. He's just slipped in here. How are you, my friend? How's footy training? A little bit sore, banged up, mate? Or
yeah, I'm a bit sore actually. Did a bit of gym stuff yesterday as well. So yeah, starting to feel it a little bit on the body. Been out of things a little bit, but yeah, it's good to be back into it. Feels weird coming to a podcast pretty late, but yeah, Tuesday night training's super unpredictable. Like sometimes we're out there for 45 minutes, other times we're out there for up to an hour and a half. So yeah, you never know what you're going to get out there a little bit later than I probably would have wanted to be. But nonetheless, we're here, boys, and ready to sort of pick up where we're leaving off. So what have I missed, lads?
We sort of just did a rapid round review. DR had a cook at Took and me. I had a cook at Nicky Martin. And now we're just
I haven't missed too much.
You haven't missed too much, mate. But well, look, DR, Crouch is a big one, but if we could just talk about Essendon very quickly. So Darcy Parish, an extra couple of weeks added on to that calf injury. So now he's 5 to 6 weeks away. Mason Redmond, 1 to 2 weeks. So does this help Nick Martin sort of get a little bit more of that kick in, rebound and roll back, you may say? And then unfortunately, the big one, which is a bit of more like a grave on our Supercoach defensive bench, is Zach Reid. Poor bloke. He just can't take a trick, man. He's
bloody made a glass of fire.
He's surgery.
Poor, yeah.
It's a different injury every time as well, Spills. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's more luck at the end of the day, isn't it? Like, it's just
far out.
I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know how he's being managed, but it's probably happening a little bit too often for it to be a fluke. So I don't know what his strength and conditioning training's like. I don't know what they're doing with him, but obviously he needs a little bit more attention behind the scenes, and he's clearly not getting that. So massive shame. We do. I don't know, say we need him, but he'll be perfect to come in for the Red Dog this week. But not meant to be, lads. And another dead rookie stuck on our defensive bench, which is very, very annoying.
Yeah. Any other injury news, mate?
Well, I think we've still got to go with it's out for 3 weeks. You got Mitchell that's listed 1 to 3 with his foot. Pendle's bicep for 3 weeks. Obviously Joe Rich as well for 3 weeks. So
all our
it does bode well. Yeah, well, it does bode well potentially for some of these cheaper Collingwood players that have been getting a game recently. Still a few of their best 22 out and not really looking like they're going to be coming back in the next week or two. I think that's probably more of your 3-week type stuff there. No real news there at Freo. You got Dangerfield, who's a test for a hamstring this week. Cam Guthrie, Achilles, 1 week. Power suspension coming back round 15, so that may affect Alex Sexton. Not too sure about that. Obviously, the two suspensions. As we know, Sam Darcy gone for 2. Harley Reid, did they appeal? Do you know if the appeal's gone
They are
through?
appealing, but they can only get it down to 1 maximum. So we're just going to one to just have a look at. I'll keep going, D. I'll get back to you, mate.
Yeah, we've got GWS. So you got Buckley a car for a week. So Leah. Don't know what we think about him, boys, but I think after his last performance, undroppable, at least for the next week, but a little bit concerned potentially when Buckley comes back. You got Himmelberg, Taylor, Buckley down there. Can you fit Aaliyah in as well? I'm really not too sure there. Darcy Jones, I don't think anyone's holding him, but 4 to 6 weeks away. Not much more relevance there. With the Hawks, you got Lloyd Meek, ankle with a test. Melbourne, not much relevance there. Marty Hawk, calf 1 to 2 weeks, but really, is he even going to get back? I'm not too sure. Colt McKercher,
interesting one, yep.
So we're still not sure. I did hear somewhere or read somewhere today, Janath, apparently he was just walking around the track, not participating in full training. So that's obviously a bit of a slight concern there.
Can I add something to this? Because as an avid FPL player, Erling Haaland, one of the best sort of soccer players in the world, football for those Europeans, had this exact same injury. So it wasn't a fracture, but he had bone stress, and he was out for 8 weeks for Manchester City.
Okay.
So that sort of timeline's come into light. And even before the bar was saying, you're not going to risk him because there's nothing to gain from this season just by rolling him out there. Maybe the only thing is now that the Rising Star has sort of opened up, it may be his for the taking. But again, at the end of the day, it's having him healthy throughout his career is way more important than winning the Rising Star. So I guess they'll take the precautionary approach again.
Yeah. Richmond, well, unfortunately for McKelty,
he was looking
really
so
unlucky.
good, man.
What's going on at Richmond with ACLs? Like, what is happening?
And Richmond, mate. Yeah, the Kings of the Jungle. It's no good at all. Geez, you feel for him, don't you? Because he's really finding his feet at AFL level. I thought when I first saw him first couple of weeks, just extremely raw, but really coming into his own. So that's, really disappointing for him. Hamstring for Hopper, another 2 weeks listed here. That affects someone like him, McAuliffe types. Bolton,
Prestia, Taranto, all available. So
available.
We'll see how the shuffle looks around there. I reckon McAuliffe still holds. He did look really good. So it's just one of these. You'd be stiff to drop him after this game like that in Geelong, really.
Callum Mills back in 2 to 3 weeks from his shoulder. No idea where he's going to fit in that 22. Does the captain even force his way in?
Crazy,
surely he's got to, but really not too sure there, boys. Tim Kelly hit 1 to 2 weeks. No relevance there. And then we look at Libba, concussion with a test. Both expected to return against Brisbane this Friday night. Great. Yeah, just wait to let Libba and Richards return against our boys. Bugger you, Bevo. He continues to screw me, even as a supporter. Like, stuff, Bevo. Come on, mate. Yeah, have an absolute laugh. And I think that's pretty much it for injuries, guys.
Awesome. Well, I guess one other very small thing that many coaches may not be thinking. So if Libba and Richards are due to come back in, Sam Darcy's injured, does this mean that Bonce Magnet gets moved forward to sort of play with Norton and Norton and Lobb? So that's just something I'm just thinking straight up. What do the Magnets look like in Bevo's hands with Bont? You can't take him out of the midfield, but again, you don't really have a like-for-like replacement for Sam Darcy because he's just a unicorn, really.
Could you go like a Karmas, do you reckon? Could you bring Buku in and swing?
Maybe it's a look and see what the teams come out with, I reckon. And then it'll probably impact whether the VC Bont or not. That's really, it's not like you're not going to like bench him or anything. It's whether or not you put the VC on him. I'm much more comfortable if they bring in a Karmas type, someone like that to play as a key tall just to keep Bont in that midfield. But if Lib and Richards are both named, then they've got to play somewhere, right? They're not going to play up forward.
Absolutely. I wonder if they both play in the guts?
Interesting. That's
Because
possible.
we haven't seen that Libba and Richards combo before, have we?
Together.
That was when Libba out, Richards came in. So it'll be interesting to see what the combo is. And if only we knew the answer to that, what are the magnets looking like in Bevo's hands? I'll tell you what, with the 50K.
Might need to get on Harvey Gallagher a bit more. Get the inside goss.
Harvey, they call that a tag. Please give me an absolute rest if they call that a tag. Sorry, Harvey, a little drive-by from you, mate. All right, now, Janath, we're going to get into probably the biggest talking point, in my opinion, this week, mate. And we have the big 7 here. Now, the work that you have done on this, and we do have a follow-up slide. This is not all, folks. Let me tell you, this is not all, believe it or not. This is absolutely elite, mate. Now, when we're talking about the big 7 here, we are focusing purely on midfielders. It seems like a week where I've seen lots of teams anyway looking to lock either that M8 or maybe at worst M7 in. And we're looking at blokes that are now coming off the bye. That obviously means, unless injury strikes, hopefully not, these blokes won't be missing another game from here until the end of the season. If you're picking any other blokes apart from the teams that have just come off that bye, they will be missing at least one. So that's why we're focusing on the Swans, the Lions, the Roos, and the Giants. So we can see a couple of lines here. Oh, we can see 3 lines here, actually. A couple of Swannies. And then we've got someone from North, Janath's old mate here. And my mate, Tommy Green, the Green Bull. Now, what you may notice straight away is that Isaac Heaney isn't here, assuming that most people have Isaac Heaney as well. But I think we've talked about him at great length. The other bloke is possibly Brody Grundy, we might talk about a little bit after this, who's obviously in the ruck as well. You may even be looking at the Lizard. I've had a couple of questions about the Lizard this week as well. So,
and Sheasel.
Oh, and the Shees, of course. I just assume most people love him.
We just talk about them so much that these 7 players we haven't talked much at all this year.
No, particularly about the Brizzy boys, and I think that's largely due to their buys that they've had this year, just been terrible buys for Supercoach. But look, Janath, this is all your good work, mate. Where do you want to start here? Because I'm looking at this. There's absolute gold everywhere. Where are we actually starting here, brother? Take us through it, my man.
So just very quickly, if you guys need to screenshot this, go for it. Otherwise, it's all available on the Third Man Up Twitter page. So at @third_man up. We'll just start off with the play prices. So as you can see, Lachie Neale, 614,400, most expensive, all the way down to Tom Green at 490K. I guess one thing to look at here, if you're looking for value, I've got a row for value here, and that's dollars per point average. So if we look at that, when we think about, so that's basically the price divided by the average. So if you look at it, the player that's most value this week is Tom Green out of these 7. He's going at $4,741 per point, basically, whereas Dane Zorko's a bit more expensive. So this is that magic number that comes into play. So if you look in value, Tom Green is definitely value this week. If we look at averages, Lachie Neale has gone very, very under the radar. I didn't think he was having that good of a season. Supercoach-wise, 117.4 is very, very neat. And wouldn't you know it, that's backed up by the fact that he's had 8 tons in 10 games played. He's had 2 scores in the 70s, both outside of the Gabba, which I guess is a slight concern with that pick. But other than that, he has a high score of 168. And just one very quick thing, and I think this is really good for informing which player is sort of rated in our sort of inner bubble, because let's just admit, Spiels D, I know, as we're in the Supercoach sort of bubble where we're surrounded by sort of Twitter community, other sort of content creators. So we're looking for ownership. We're really looking at the top 1%. And so for those that are really looking to climb those rankings, I'd be looking at the ownership in the top 1% and comparing it against the overall ownership. So typically players that have a higher ownership in the top 1% relative to overall, it generally means that they're a player that you want to get, because it means that a lot of good coaches have them in their teams. And yes, it may mean that it makes it harder to rise the ranks, but it probably means that they're a good player. So if you look at Dane Zorko, for instance, he's only owned by 24.4% of the overall, but he's owned by 66% of the top 1%. And so that's really, really important. And you compare that with someone like Errol Goulden, all these numbers are before this week. So I've taken out any movements for this week because it's going to fluctuate throughout the week. but he's owned by 19.5% of the overall percentage, but he's only owned by 2.8% of the top 1%. And I think that's really important to keep in mind as to, okay, well, does that mean that we don't go for a play just because of their name value, but we go for a play that has a good role, has the runs on the board, that sort of thing? I think if we were to just look at these 7 holistically, it may look very, very tight. So hopefully this next slide will help to break things up a little bit. I'll get your boys' opinions very, very soon. But I've just done a fixture analysis as well. So obviously there's 12 rounds left in the season. Now you may be wondering, what do the colors mean? So any green colored matchup is a matchup which DFS Australia, so big shout out to them, they give great numbers. This is based off of the last 5 matchups. So last 5 strength of schedule, basically. And so DFS have basically said, do players exceed the average or go worse when playing a certain team in a certain position? So we've got Lockie Neal and Josh Dunkley as inside mids, Zorko as a designated kicker, Warner, LDU, Green as inside mids, and Errol Goulden as a wing. And based on this, you can see that any matchup that's highlighting green is a top 3 matchup right now for that position. So for designated kicker, St Kilda is the 3rd easiest matchup right now as per the last 5 games. Whereas the last 5 games when inside mid, Sydney is the hardest matchup. So if we have a look at this, Dane Zorko has 3 top 3 matchups coming up and no bottom 3 matchups coming up. LDU has 3 top 3 matchups and Sydney has a hard matchup coming up. Whereas Chad Warner and the Lions inside mids have 2 hard matchups and a single easy matchup coming up. The weighting at the bottom here, average fixture difficulty is basically the numbers in terms of easiest all added up, and in a golf style way, I've divided them all by 12 and then found which player has the easiest fixture difficulty coming up. And surprisingly, that will be Luke Davies-Uniacke, who plays West Coast this week, Gold Coast in a couple of weeks, who's an easy matchup for midfielders, Geelong and Richmond in back-to-back weeks, and West Coast again, all before the season is out. And we saw how Melbourne went. North Melbourne may not be a walk in the park for this Melbourne team. Same with Collingwood. So I think one of the players that's going heavily under the radar, bias aside, is Luke Davies-Uniacke. Now I'll give you boys the hard part here. Try to rank these boys 1 through 7.
You've done a really good job here, Janath, by the way, first of all.
Thank you, mate.
I don't know how long this took you to do, but bloody kudos. I think what I would say straight off the bat is every one of these picks is a great option depending on what sort of game style you play. So if you're someone that likes those value picks, which I don't mind them, but I like paying for sort of top of your line sort of stuff. So yeah, LDU and Errol, I think sort of take the cake. I think Green is probably in everyone's team. There wouldn't be many sides without Tom Green.
Percentages, mate.
Boys, right. Haven't spoken a couple of hours. So if I had to rank him, number 1, mate, just straight off the bat, I would say Lockie Neal. And the reason for that, I've done a little bit of, because my biggest dilemma personally is Neal versus Warner. It's been really tough for me, but it's sort of narrowed down a little bit. So Neal's actually 4th for average in mids only. So Heaney's first, doesn't really count. He's a forward. Bottom Pally 2nd. Sarong 3rd. Dacos, he's a defender. He doesn't count. Butters, Flanders, he's a forward, doesn't count. And then Neal. So Lockie Neal in your midfield only is essentially with the other boys in their sort of preferred line. So he's the one that I actually really do like. So I'd have him 1. 2, for this week, definitely Chad Warner. He's just on my radar. He's someone I really want myself, but it's splitting hairs, boys. It's so hard to pick between the two, but that easy matchup and that 35 break even, you can't go wrong with it. And I think Zorko comes behind him just in terms of he's definitely F2 or 3. And if you don't have him, that stat you brought up, Janath, that 60% owned in the top 1% is a critical stat. If you want to get back into the game and climb up the rank of guys that all the big dogs have in the comp. So he's really important. Fourth, I feel like it. I feel like it's a pretty dead heat between LDU and Errol. They're very similar players. Great point with LDU's matchups, but yeah, Errol, I think a little bit inconsistent. Definitely lost that consistency he had last year, so a little bit concerned. Green's really hard to rank, boys, because I think he's just in everyone's side, and he's so much better than what he's producing. So he's the one I actually can't get a proper read on, and a bit controversial, but I'd probably, when you're weighing up the price, the break even, all those factors, I'm going to have Dunkley last because I know. Someone's got to come last, Jonathan. I think Dunkley's
it's not a bad race to come last in.
Yeah, well, because you got to weigh it up, boys. So like LDU and Errol Green, all huge value. Dunkley, I don't see any value, and when you're paying up that price for him, he's sort of your M10 or 11. You may as well fork up a little bit more for M4, Lockie Neal at the moment, and Chad Warner, who he's really hard to get a read on because, 3-round average close to 140, so he's dominating. So is it sustainable where Neal's kind of got the runs on the board? So for me, it's Neal versus Warner this week. I love the Chad. I think he's an absolutely unbelievable pod, but Lockie Neal, he's pretty safe. But yeah, Kenny, here you go. Take that one.
You know what's crazy about this, Spills, is the fact that Tom Green has the most scores out of above 130 of any of these players. He's got 4. No one's got 3. The next best is 2.
What's going on with him though? Like, maybe
there's a couple with
from
3.
the buy.
But
surely Green
he's been terrible. He's been terrible these last couple of weeks to watch. Like he's been tagged or his poor disposal efficiency. And DR, I'll put it to you, mate. Do you agree with Spills? Is there any you'd move up, down, slide on the scale? Where do you rank Tom Green in and amongst all this value considered?
What are you doing putting Dunkley down the bottom, Spills? Bugger off, mate. What's this, mate?
Well, you're paying up for him. 133 break even, 600k. He's sitting at I think M11 at the moment.
Fair enough to you, mate. I've actually got Errol down the bottom. Mainly because he's a wing roll, isn't he? Really, I'm not going to take a winger over any of these guys. Look, it's nice value, but value for what? We haven't really seen a really huge season from Errol so far. Look, I was looking to start with the man after that preseason game, sucked a few in, but look, I'm not huge on Errol. One thing I just did want to quickly raise here, if we're looking at LDU's fixture, so we're talking around 20 and 21. So currently we've got Geelong as the easiest matchup, Richmond second easiest matchup. Do we think by then that's going to be remaining the same? Like when we've got your Taranto's back, your Prestia will be back and then gone the next week probably. Your Hoppers. Do you think that by the time that LDU gets that Richmond game that possibly they're not a top 3? Geelong, does Danger make that much of a difference? I'm not too sure. We know he hasn't been there for a little while. So that's just one thing I'm looking at in regards to some of these.
I'll just add something to that, DR. So obviously that is a big caveat with using fixture ratings. But so the data here is for the last 5 games. Well, to give you a bigger sample size for the last 10 games, Geelong is the easiest matchup. Richmond's the second easiest matchup for midfield.
Well, there we go.
So I guess with a bigger sample size even, so there's games in there with Danger playing, with Reece Stanley as the ruck. There's games with Taranto and Dion Prestia, all of them coexisting. So there's a mixture of variety of games within there. So I'd say that this is pretty accurate. And you could see if you use DFS's ratings to choose your captains to do that, most of the time it's pretty accurate. Like you saw Bailey Dale, Collingwood give up so many points to rebounded defenders. What do you know? Bailey Dale, 130. So I really like using this as a metric for determining future success in a way.
Nah, can't argue with that, mate. Look, for my ratings, at number 1, I've got Dane Zorko. And the reason I say that is because I don't see any other player apart from Zorko as a must-have. I don't see any of these blokes as must-have midfielders. I see Zorko as a must-have forward. So that's why I'd have Zorko at number 1. Number 2, I'm going with another one of my boys, dual Brownlow medalist, Lockie Neal. Not going to add much more on that, but this bloke's got history. I think that we've seen a floor of around 70 to 80, but then a ceiling of 160 plus. We've seen that a couple of times. So I do like that about Neil. Next, I would look, I'm going to go with the Chad. I just think that the upside to this bloke is phenomenal. He's impacted the scoreboard every game apart from one with bags, a couple of bags of threes, had a 4 in there. I don't think the 3s and 4s he'll be able to maintain. So I don't, even though he's got a low break even, I don't think that he's like extraordinary value, if that makes sense at the same time, because he's coming off a couple of big ceiling games, had 3 in a row, under 100 not long ago. So I'd probably have him next. I do like LDU, then Green, then Dunkley, then Errol right at the end. So not much more to add, boys. You covered that really well, I think.
That one's hard to argue, I'd say, D. I think Sorko's a must-have, and it's a bit of a cheat to include him as part of the Big Seven because he's not really a midfielder, but he's eligible as a midfielder. Lockie Neal, for me as well, is my number one. Chad Warner, that fixture difficulty for Sydney is the hardest off the lot in terms of for an inside mid because you get the Geelong matchup this week, and if you have a look at the run home, there's no real matchups that scream out to you except for maybe the SCG matchups. That's something we're not really giving much attention is home versus away, that sort of thing. And the other thing, and this is intangible, I got this in a comment as well. You got 3 Lions here, and you got 2 Swans. Does that mean the Lions take points off of each other? Do the Swans take points off of each other? And then you get stuck with LDU and Tom Green here. If their teams win or their teams are competitive, they're probably going to score well. And so if I'm looking for a player, and this is specifically for league players, if you're looking for a player right now for the rest of the season with a good finals fixture, and I'll just bring it back to the finals, the Supercoach finals fixture row here just to finish it off. I think Luke Davies-Uniacke is your man. And this is, as a player, as someone
get out of my head, Janath.
I'm just saying.
Come on.
There's risk. There's a big risk here. Definitely is a big risk.
Yeah.
But the fact is that he could really go big. He can go big in games where they win. Like, who's going to score when North Melbourne win? LDU, Sheasel, Fisher, Nick Larkey.
Are North going to win, though? That's the question.
They're not going to go
probably going to win.
Surely.
They'll win one. They're going to win 1 or 2 games. So, like, you probably assume that it's going to be a pretty long year for him. And, like, where does LDU sit with that? I think he's in good form, but like it's such a punt. Like
it is.
I think there's some really good, really good. Oh, sorry, keep going, Janath. You're not.
No, you're good. I was just saying LDU is not my number one if you're ranking these 7, but I'm saying if you're looking for purely a pick to win you finals, down the line Supercoach finals, if LDU is there at the end of the race with those 3 games, I'd expect him to be very, very close to winning you games as a pod, really. Go on, Spills.
I was just going to say, like, this is really hard to rank because DR brought a great point up, like Zorko number 1, because he's got that forward DPP. But I brought up, like, the value picks as well. Like, I would never have, like, Dunkley in the bottom 2, but because we're taking the value into consideration, I sort of, if I was to pick these just straight off the bat, like, Dunkley would easily be, like, top 3, but that's sort of what it is at the moment. So you sort of factor in, like, the value and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's bloody tough to rank. But I think for me, like, the Brisbane boys can't go wrong. Neil and Zorko. But yeah, good point as well of Chad Warner. Like that's that hard fixture. Maybe he's already had his purple patch because it's not a sustainable way to score, like kicking bags of goals as a midfielder. It's nice, but you're not going to model your game off it. You may as well. I think if you're going to divide the two like I am, I think you're looking at sort of Lockie Neal where you know what output you're going to get every single week as that inside mid grunt unless he gets tagged or it's a really outside sort of game.
Yeah, and I suppose just to bookend the discussion from my end anyway, another thing you got to take into account, and I'm talking if you're looking at your Errol LDU types, what's your current midfield setup like? So if you're already running like an Oliver and another speculative midfielder there, I'd want to go for one of the big guns. I wouldn't want to be running 3 of those blokes, if you know what I mean. You want, there's 4 or 5 really top tier ones. And then I think you can afford to have maybe 2 types like your Oliver Errols, just for example. So that's just another slight point I'd just like to add there. Very, very team dependent.
Yep.
I wouldn't be going overly heavy on the lower types at this stage, if that makes sense.
Jeez, that was a brilliant discussion, boys. Look, I'm going to agree. Lockenneal 1. I'm going to exclude Dane Zorka from this chat because he's a must-have.
Yeah.
Neil
enough.
1.
Yep.
Tom Green for value 2. I'm going to have Dunkley at 3. Warner tied with LD. I'm just not sold on Warner. There's just something, the gut-wise, that says, looking at that Bulldogs game, the amount of times the ball fell into his lap, apart from that specky, for him to kick a goal, there's just something about him. I'm not sold just
It could
yet.
be bait. Could be
It
bait.
could be. There's potential for it to be a boom or bust pick, really. LDU at 5, Errol at 6. Just the lack of a real ceiling, and yeah, I'm just not sold on that. And also, Sydney are just playing so well at the moment that they could come to a point where they can just end up resting players at the end. And it's not to say that Brisbane's season, again, DR, it's not going as well as you'd hope. There is possibility that some of these players get a little bit rest mid-game as well. But you think you're more likely to challenge the top 8 compared to Sydney, who are just flying at the moment. They're just like in cruise control. They probably have a bit of time. Rest Warner forward. Put Goulden on a wing and just say, chill out a little bit, sort of thing.
Well, I've heard
I think Brisbane are in revenge mode now.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
because
we'll
people have
see.
said
We'll
sort
see.
of the opposite about Neil, the fact that, oh, look, Brisbane probably won't make finals, so they may even just rest him through the end of the season. But the way that I see it, within the next, let's just say 5 to 6 weeks in particular, he'll be playing his heart out. He plays his heart out every week, like Neil. Absolutely, I can guarantee that. He captain the club, but if you ever, if there's been ever a time in the last 5 years, excluding finals, where we need Lachie Neale to step up and play his best football, it's during these next 5-6 weeks. If you want to have any chance of making a slight dent in the top 8 this year, I've still got a smidgen of hope, but a very, very small smidgen. But that will be wiped out if we lose to the Dogs this week, I think. So big game, but I think this is a time where Lachie Neale really want to play his best football, and hopefully our mate Harvey looks to tag him this week. Go for it.
Harvey.
Try best, mate.
No, Jockey Neal time. Jockey Neal time, boys. I'm in.
Well, boys, before we go into the mailbag, just very, very quickly, I've just got 4 rookies to discuss, and I just want a very quick ranking, okay? So Toby McMullen, 123.9k forward, has really good poise per minute. Stephen Caniglio, 6-week shoulder injury. Most likely McMullen plays a full game. The next one, Will Dawson, 117.3k defensive forward. He played 2 games in defense, got about 2 bags of, I think, 9 goals altogether kicked on him. He's now playing as a forward, so alongside Larkey and those types. So that's in training. Leek Leah, as we talked about before, Jack Buckley's probably 1 week away now. So is it that Aaliyah has 1 bad game is now? It would have been great to see Buckley get up this week and see what the Giants backline mix looks like. Is it Haynes that goes out? Is it Iden that goes out? It's a very settled back 6, that one. And then finally, we chatted about him before as well, but Billy Dowling. So he'll be on his bubble after the bye. So a really good sort of a gift in a way. 123.9k mid forward, could be cover for the rest of the season. We'll probably chat about him in a couple of weeks after seeing a couple of games. But very quick ranking, if you're to look to bring in a rookie this week. Start with you, Phils.
Yeah, so I'm all over Aaliyah at the moment. I just think he is in such red hot form. The Giants are a good team with Aaliyah down there. I don't think they're going to drop him. I think there's other moves that they will consider, but I think he's pretty far from being dropped. And he's sort of 200k, so it's a bit sort of awkward, but yeah, low break even, and more importantly, great on-field points coming to the buyers. I think he's going to serve really well as an on-field cover, where Dawson doesn't. Like, he's probably someone I'm bringing in at the moment as well, because there's no one else, and McMullen, and they're pretty neck and neck for me at the moment. I can't separate them. I don't know enough about them, but they're both pretty underwhelming. But Aaliyah, for me, boys, I'm pretty hot on him. So I think he's most likely going to make his way into my team this week. So we'll see how we go. What about you, DR? What do you reckon, mate?
I find it really tough, Spills, to rank these blokes. I think it's very team dependent. One thing
it is tough.
Yeah, one thing for me anyway, with my particular setup with Dawson, is that defensive forward DPP. and thinking to myself, look, worst comes to worst, he's going to be a loop where I can swap the fish or the sexy beast, Mr. Alex, with him. So
Yeah.
that's
You're
what
probably keen for the
leaves
rest of
me.
the year now, Dawson. Like your team's almost done, so you probably grab Dawson, and even if he dies on the bench, he just becomes like nice DPP for like Sexton, Fisher,
Well,
etc.
this is the way that I'm thinking, Spills, because I know you're pretty keen on Aaliyah, right? So what I'm thinking at the moment is that with Aaliyah, let's just say if you've got your Haw and your Reed, like I know lots of people do a couple of dead rookies there, you're actually having to pay up for that, which I really, really don't like. I'd almost, rather than pay up for Aaliyah, just get Dawson in. And this is if you've got your Fisher or your Sexton, get him on the bench, make sure that you keep on to either one of those Fisher or Sexton picks, and then you've actually got that backup for your back line without having to pay for Aaliyah and then be worried that in a week's time, you're going to be stuck with another dead rookie there, albeit at a higher price. But we just don't know what's going to happen with Buckley back. They've got so many good tools down there. Himmelberg's another one we haven't talked about that's down there as well. Like, where does this bloke fit when Buckley comes back? Who actually misses out? And he's a talented player. And I agree with this, Bills. Like, played out of his skin last week. But after this week,
one bad game away.
Yeah, if he drops a 50, I think he's out again, mate. I think he's out again. So I would actually have probably McMullen ahead of him, to be quite honest, for me. I know one of those games is a sub game, but point per minute is really good. So I'll probably have Toby at 1. McMullen at 1. Then we're looking at, I'd say, Dawson for me, Aaliyah, and then Dowling. I only have Dowling last because I've never seen him play a game. So I'm not going to rate him up there, and I haven't seen the bloke play a game. So that's probably for me, mate.
I agree with that. Very quickly, though, if this might be a very personal question, if bringing in Will Dawson ahead of McMullen means you can bring in Lockie Neal instead of any of these other ones, would you do it? Because we all rank Neal at 1. Is Neal more important than bringing in Dawson versus McMullen, or is that just insignificant at the end of the day?
I would say yes, assuming that you've got Fisher or Sexton to loop with him. If you don't have Fisher or Sexton, my answer is no. If you do, my answer is yes.
Very nice. Very team-specific question, that one. With that, let's go into the questions, the mailbag. So we're going to try get through as many of them as possible. We've sort of set ourselves a little bit of a timer. So we're going to get through as many questions in 20 minutes, and we're going to try and get through the more general ones first, because we've talked a lot about the big talking points this week. We're going to fire through as many general questions as possible, and then try and get to the team-specific ones at the end of that.
Beautiful. And again, thank you to anyone that has left a question. We really do appreciate all the engagement, guys, and hopefully we can help you out a little bit this week anyway. So first one we've got is from Benny. G'day, Benny. Hey, guys. Loving the content as always. Appreciate you, man. Is Dogger from here on out a top 6 forward if Shrek stays healthy? He doesn't seem to have a good run either. Would you avoid for the season and finish off your forward line with Mackay or Curnow after their bye? He's an interesting one, isn't it? Spilsy, you've owned him with me for the season. And what I'll say is, he's come in bloody handy at times, mate. He hasn't been the best scorer.
No, I was just going to say that. It's not whether he's a top 6 forward. You probably because if Shrek goes down, you beauty. But like DR, how handy is it going to be? Like, how handy is it having him at R2 when you need him? Like, I'm probably going to wait on English until my last upgrade. So Doggers, when I get rid of Moyle, like Doggers going to be my R2 for like another week. So, mate, it's just so handy. So I think he's more important than that. But I do like the Carlton forwards, like sort of in that finals when the business end of the season comes.
You are paying over 500 for him, but I think what people tend to forget is that there's a little bit of a bonus. They're not steak knives, but you get an insurance policy with him as well. This is considering that you've got Livingston, as many of us do, sitting there at R3. So, look, is he a top 6 forward? Is he going to average like a top 6 forward with Shrek? For me, probably not. But I'm probably willing to take that, knowing that if I've got some carnage in the rucks, it's an easy swap. And so that's probably the way I'd feel. Janath, how about you, mate, as a non-owner? What do you feel about this?
There's been many times where I've just wanted to have him. And even now, if one of my rucks, Gorn or English, gets injured, Jackson's in next week. So it's almost like having that trade in the bank where you're like, Well, that's the only way because you're not going to sideways one of Gorn or English for 1 weeker.
Yeah,
Nah,
So
you're
it's
right.
like
so important.
it's like
Yeah.
that's why for you
Structure.
guys, you boys have that insurance policy. And but the thing is, to actually answer this question, I don't think he's a top 6 forward.
Yeah,
If
I
Shrek
agree.
is playing,
Yeah,
if
I
Shrek
agree.
is playing, he's probably averaging 80 to 85. And there's players like both the Blues boys, even definitely Rankin, I think will definitely go above 90. And then Zorko, Fisher, Heaney, Flanders, there's 6 right there. And there's probably others, Jai Caldwell, Dylan Moore, that are probably around that type in that sort of 7 to 12 range along, and Jackson's one of them in there as well.
Even Sexton could pip him. Like, it's starting to get a little bit competitive down there in the forward line.
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
gonna
just
be
tough to
interesting,
say with Will Power coming back in.
Yeah, very interesting with Power come back in. All right, next one here we've got heard is from Jacob Sparks. G'day, Jacob. How are you, mate? Who, if any, are the better keepers to bring in? So I've got 2 here: Green versus Neil. We just talked about that. So we said Lockie Neil, mate. Although Green does provide a lot more value, it may allow you to make another upgrade. So take that into account as well. Sexton versus Fisher. I'm still going to say the Fish. I know we're paying up a little bit more. Janath, who do you think averages more? Are you going with the Fish? Do you think it's a safer pick?
100%. And I'll give you another thing to add to that. West Coast this week, decent matchup. Collingwood next week. We're just talking about how predictable it is that run-in defenders will play well against Collingwood. Bailey Dale. Sack Fisher is in for field day next week, I reckon. So, yeah, Fisher now and into the long term out of those 2.
Beautiful. Spilsy, agree with that, mate?
100%. Like, just brought up the power factor for Sexton. So, yeah, Fisher easily top 6 from now on, I reckon.
Beautiful, mate. All right, next one is from the Duke, buddy. Hey, guys, hope
Great
I'm not too late. You are not, mate. What do you guys think of Oliver to one of Errol or Laird? So, look, I suppose let's just talk about Oliver for a sec. Do you think it's time now where you could just bite the bullet after watching him last week? He's got the round 14 bye, which was tricky for many people. Spilsy, you got any inkling to just move the pig on now? Or are you going to hold strong, mate, and just hope for a second half of the season revival from the great man?
I love the idea of buy flipping him before round 14, but I don't like the idea of a straight sideways trade to like an Errol or a Laird. I don't like that. If I was you, like, I don't know if you get rid of a Garcia down to like one of those, like a mid-season rookie, whoever's on the bubble, Dowling, whatever, and then get Oliver to Neil or like someone you know who's going to be a top 4. So I'm big for trading him, but you don't want to like for like. You don't want to trade Oliver for someone around his level. Otherwise, it's almost a sideways trade. But if you get rid of dead wood on the bench, get 100K in the bank, you can all of a sudden, because he's sort of low 500s, you can all of a sudden target someone in the low 600s. And that's what I will be doing. That's what I am tempted to do come round 14 buy. So to answer in that format, yes, I would like to buy flip him, but not in a straight sideways manner. Do not see enough value in the trade for doing an Errol. What do you reckon, Janath? You with me on that one?
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And then another thing is, I'm not sure why you would trade Oliver this week. His break even's only 120. I mean, I say only 120. They're playing Collingwood, weak midfield, big game. I reckon I've tipped Melbourne.
I'm backing him.
I think they're all going to respond. Like the Melbourne boys, when we get into the captains, they're all going to respond. I reckon.
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully that was a little bit of help for you, legends. All right. This one's got 4 here. Cutter, hey, gents, how are you, mates? Wondering if you think Fisher and Sexton could be F5 and F6, knowing Powell will be back after the Gold Coast Suns bye round. Cheers, Cutter. Yeah, it's a really good question, mate. Currently, I'm planning for them to actually be my F5 and F6 unless I need to trade them with 5 as that other man on the side. Now, things may change, and it's so hard, isn't it, when Powell comes back, because you assume he's the main kick-out distributor, or he's got the main monopoly on the kick-outs, I think, Powell. So, look, I'm still going to say yes, just given the fact that I don't think our forward line is going to be anything terrific. And you even look like the Dylan Moores that lots of people are bringing in. Massive score, but look at what he's done the 2-3 weeks prior to that. Bit of a roller coaster type pick. So I think there's potential for that. Janath, do you think there's any world where Sexton could finishes out F6, or you think it's a bit too much of
Surely
an
not.
ask, mate? Surely not.
Well,
You're not
it's
as confident
so
as
hard.
me.
It's too good to be true,
What
isn't
I'll
it?
do is
Like-
I'll do the way that
It's just-
Sexton's played. He's sort of afforded, given he's got 100 in his break even. Once Powell comes back in, we get a forward 1 free week without his break even being too high to look how Powell and Sexton can coexist. And if they look okay, then he may be that D7, F7 swing. Otherwise, you get 400. If you can get, you thought Alex Sexton at 180 was going to get 400. I'm taking that and running in a heartbeat. No need for him to be a keeper.
Good point. It's a
Yeah.
good point. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm hoping that I'm right anyway, because wouldn't that be an absolute bonus? As you said, Spills, that would be just terrific, wouldn't it, mate, if we could manage to actually get away with something like that, mate?
But the thing is, DR, you're going to get to a position where some teams are going to have Isaac Rankin at F6. And you're going to have Alex Sexton at that point. Like, it's going to be very difficult to make up those points elsewhere on your field otherwise, I reckon.
James, very quick on this one from Chook H. Worth going Oliver to Neil? I say absolutely no. Are you boys interested in any way? We're probably talking about trading out Oliver rather than in. Janath, no from you, mate?
I think that's fine. That's what we were talking about before, mate. That if you're trading Oliver this week, you should go to one of the Ubers. It's hard. I think Neil's the only one I'd be comfortable sort of trading Oliver to, if that makes any sense.
Sorry. Do you know what?
I just wouldn't do it this week.
As Neil to... Oh, I'm an idiot. I read that completely the other way around. I thought he wanted to trade Oliver in. Jeez. Sorry. I'm losing it, boys. I'm losing it. All right. Next one is from Stevie Price. Hey, Stevie. Love the pod, lads. Appreciate you, man. Do we reckon Sherry can come close to outscoring English from here on out? Now, Janath, you are a Tim English owner. So tell us, mate, what are your thoughts on Sherry versus English in regards to averaging from here on out, mate?
I don't think Cherry can do it. And again, big shout out with the so-called Ruck Whisperer from the Dr. Supercoach podcast, Pig Mentality. He did a ruck fixture analysis, a bit like how I did a midfield one. And he saw that Tristan Cherry had the easiest ruck run until now, and now he's got the hardest ruck run till the end of the season.
Ooh, okay.
English,
very nice.
English had a ridiculous amount of hitouts on the weekend. I think it was 50 odd. And I was like, Tim English never has 50 hitouts. Yeah, they both had 50 hitouts. How crazy is that? Two ruckmen had 50 hitouts in a game, in the same game. And
That's
so
amazing,
Tim English, 130. I think this is a turn. The fact is, when I was watching the game, he looked super aggressive. He looked much more aggressive. He was taking marks in the middle of the ground. He was looking like he actually wanted to be paid. And that's really important. I think English will not average 130, but he should probably push that 120 mark from here on out. I don't think Cherry can do that.
Beautiful, mate. Spilsy, Thrillho has one for you here, mate. Directed at you. So, Janath, we'll just take a backward seat for this one.
That's all good, mate.
Hey, Spilsy, thought on Nick. We know who Thrillho's favourite is, Janath. No worries at all, mate. Hey, Spilsy, thoughts on Nick Hind as my defensive forward bench option? I'm deciding between him and Lukosius. Big pod there for the remainder of the year. How's his role when Dersma returns? Spilsy, what do you got for your number one fan, Thrillho?
Look, first of all, mate, appreciate you asking me ahead of these two goats. So at least we know what the pecking order is around here, boys. I'm not too far behind you after all.
It's always been that way, mate.
Look, mate. I love Nick Hind, boys. Don't get me wrong, but I couldn't really see him in my team. If I was to pick a Don, I'd go Jordan Ridley. Just really highly on the bubble at the moment. Plenty of value, averaging, I think it's 140 average in 2 weeks or something like that. So, crazy. He's going to make some serious money. I think he's about 6% trade in this week, so plenty of recognition. So, if you're looking for value, and I would probably fade Hind and Lukosius. Hind and Lukosius, because I'm just not really sure on either in terms of Supercoach relevance.
Nick Hind, that was the best I've probably ever seen him play, honestly. He's in really good form.
He is, and I haven't monitored him, boys. I couldn't even really tell you what the price is, but in terms of value and role, Ridley's, if he can get through injuries, which hopefully he can, really like him a little bit more than those two.
I'll tell you what I've noticed with Nick Hind, hunger in his game.
Definitely.
Like hunger.
Yep.
I've never seen him work so hard in his life. I don't know if it's because he was out of the team, he was a sub, and he thought, you know what, my career could actually be at the crossroads here.
Yeah.
I need to work my absolute backside off to get into this team. And hats off to him because he's been playing some really, really good football. I had a trap on him in the stock market, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and maybe that was a little bit harsh. It probably was. But, yeah, I didn't expect this from Nick Hind. Yeah, hats off to him, as I said, because he's working his absolute butt off. Yep, well done, Hindy. But, yeah, look. Janath?
Tough. Now, look, 388k, break even of 10, you can go there, but if you bring him in now, it's going to be as a keeper. And I think unless you've already got your 22 premiums, I'd look to get them in first before getting that 23rd sort of bench cover in, because by the time the bench cover comes in, you may have a gift that's fallen into your lap of 400k. You're like, everyone else can get on him like a Connor Rosie, and you're like, damn, I should have just waited it out. So I think that's where I'd be going, mate.
Yeah, good advice, buddy. All right, next one is from Benji. G'day, Benji. Who do you guys have ranked 1 to 5 top averaging ruckman from now until the end of the year? I've been asking myself this for so long. It's Max Gawn at 1, then who? Well, look, would you boys all agree, and I'm not saying in any particular order, English, Marshall, and Grundy are going to be the next 4? Okay.
Yeah.
Do we think that the 5th ruckman's even going to be relevant?
Would have said Meek. Lloyd Meek, before he got injured, was really coming on. And now he's injured. It's really annoying because it was good to see. It was good to see Meek in that touch. What do you reckon? I've got Marshall. I've got Grundy, Marshall, English. But English and Marshall, again, it's very interchangeable. But do you see, like, as soon as Grundy's buy is over, he becomes instantaneously more valuable. The question asks averaging. So I still think Grundy's got that edge, though, because of those SCG games. He just looks like a beast at the SCG.
Yeah, I think even if we take that averaging out, because I don't think it really matters about who's the top averaging, because obviously he's looking to get someone in. Yeah. I think it's who scores the most points, total points from here until the end of the season. And for me, with an extra game, geez, I think it's hard to go past Brodie Grundy. I really do. And I can't believe I'm saying that. And I hate it because I traded him out for Nick Martin, who I had traded out and traded back in. And this merry-go-round of players in and out of my side. Zach Fisher, welcome, and go and welcome. It's a little bit frustrating there. But I'd probably have Grundy at 1 myself. Yep. Spills, would you add in? Yeah, I'd have him at 1.
Above Gawn.
Oh, sorry. Well, out of these 3.
Gawn doesn't count, does he?
Gawn 1. Jeez. Sorry. Grundy first out of these. Okay. I'm not getting that excited. I'm not jumping on the train like that, mate.
I knew what you meant, DR. It's all good, brother.
Oh, that's good, brother. All good. All good.
All righty.
Spills, where do you rank him?
Yeah, probably pretty similar to DR. I do like Grundy quite a fair bit.
And
at
then
2, yeah.
Marshall, English.
That extra game. It's just so hard. Splitting hairs. I'm going to go English. A little bit more consistent, I think.
Yeah.
Marshall, 160, 60, 160, 60. I can't cope with that. English, a little bit more like sort of 110s to 120s, 130 on a good day. So, look, I don't think you can go wrong. But I really like Grundy as well. He's probably the R2 that I'm considering, but haven't got to that point yet. We'll decide in a couple of weeks.
I may have probably got him this week, to be honest. If I hadn't traded Moyle in, if I hadn't traded Moyle in, I would have probably got
that's another one.
Geelong at the SCG. I really like that matchup. So, I like Brodie Grundy. Sorry, Janath.
Just a very quick one. We were chatting about this at your place, mate, but I was very interested to see how the West Coast double ruck setup goes. Because obviously we've been seeing West Coast as sort of the whipping boys for ruckman in the past couple of years. But as soon as you get Flynn and BJ Williams on the same side, you could see that the effort that it took for the opposing ruckman to beat that matchup just exponentially increased. So I think that's a trend that we're going to see throughout the year. So Marshall originally having 2 West Coast matchups, when I first got him in, I'm like,
we're thinking
beauty. They're going really good matchups. And now you got to temper your expectations, and some of the other ruck matchups sort of become a bit more favorable. Like anyone that plays Rowan Marshall is basically 3 points at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, really
No,
good
the double
point,
ruck
mate.
combo is an absolute killer. Like the Bombers are really good with it as well. When Draper's on the park and Goldstein, so like
Yeah, 100%.
impossible to score against for ruck. So you got to. That's another thing you got to weigh up as well with these. Like sort of as you're ranking them, what is their fixture like? How many double rucks do they have? So yeah, I think I'll be doing a little research myself.
Nice, Spilsy. And there was another question here from Braids, and wondering who you guys rate out of more in English and Grundy. Gone through that, and we've also ranked the rookies for this week as well. So
And just
thank
very
you very much.
quickly, boys, Lockie McNeil. Sorry, I just forgot that one before. 158k. He's on his bubble, and he just scored 80 as the sub. Should play this week, even though Riley West got his suspension upheld. Any interest in him? It's not. If you're paying up for Lee Kalia, like I just don't like paying up for rookies at this point in the upgrade season, where that extra K could come in a bit handy.
Yeah, not for me. Not for me.
Yeah.
I'd go
Spilsy.
McMullen for the price. Yeah, McMullen for the price. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
Cool.
Agreed. All right. Next one is from Luca. G'day, Luca. Hey, legends. I took a punt on Moyle last week, hoping he can be one more week at R2. Yeah, it's been confirmed, hasn't it? I got a DM sent to me
Yeah.
that Wits is it. Yep. So you don't need to worry about that, mate, because Wits will not be back this week. And that we've
You'll
talked
cash
about
in.
English and Grundy as well.
Yep.
All right. Chris asks, is Oliver to Warner a good trade? So I've already talked about whether or not you think it's okay to sideways. Do we think that's okay very quickly, boys? Spills, you're going to give that a tick, mate, or you reckon just keep Oliver this week?
So when I was saying before, like, I think this is a good trade, but not until he's got his buy. I think Oliver's on-field points matter this week in a buy. Get rid of the buy players first. Like
you can't really do it
even
next
though
week,
it's free,
though, can you, with Warner's price, because his break-even's low.
That's what I mean. It's gonna have to be someone else. If you really want Warner, then I suppose so. But it's just not a good week for it because you want Oliver, even though Oliver's not in great form, you want that 80 or 90 on field. Like, trust me.
The thing is,
I'd probably wait a week
is,
and
Phil,
target someone else.
How about it? If you're going to trade Oliver to Warner, you're going to go 1-for-1 this week anyway. So it's not like you'll have Oliver on field. As long as you assume Warner's going to score more than Oliver this week, you're just going to get that extra points in your best 18 if you have 21 or 22 playing regardless. So I think this is the week where if you do need to trade him, if you do want to sideways, this is probably the best buy round to do it since we probably don't have as many players on the buy as other buy rounds.
Like, welcome to Supercoach 2024, where we're looking to upgrade to Chad.
I'll probably do it myself. I'll probably do it myself then in that case.
What's
I've got the money
on?
too. So I might grab Neil and Warner this week, boys. I'm going to grab Neil and Warner this week. See you later, Piggy.
Bugger off, Skills. What are you doing, mate? Oh, my goodness. All right. Rob Cockerell. G'day, Robbie. Love the show, lads. Bought him all last week for a quick cash grab, as did I. And my man Spilsy as well. Looks like he's getting another game of years. Would you still bring in English this week if it pushes more to R3? No, I don't think that's a good idea this week. No. All right. Next one we got is from...
He plays Marshall, so I reckon Moyley's in for a big one this week. He's got Rowan Marshall.
Let's go, Moyley, on the Moyle train. Next one is from Maxi. G'day, Maxi. Hey, guys, apologies if this has been asked earlier. How would you rank? We have absolutely answered that one for you, Maxi. Cheers, buddy.
Segment on it for you, buddy.
There we go. Dedicated to you, Max. Next one, another legend, regular CR7. Hey, man. Boys, do we think Tom Stewart is D6 or D7? I reckon D27 at the moment, mate.
I was going to say. Fake Primo written all over it. He's finished. He's done.
Max Holmes is the one you want from the Geelong backline.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I'm not a fan of Tom Stewart, and hang him up,
Tommy boy.
He's been terrific. Hang him.
He's put him into retirement.
No, I was talking Supercoach. He can retire from our Supercoach relevance.
I thought you were trying to retire him.
Look, I'm at the moment CR7. I'm not recommending Stewart to anyone, mate. Look, he could turn it around. Hope he does for those owners, but I just couldn't do it myself. Recommend him, mate. Sorry, buddy. All right, how are we going for time, boys? Reckon we can get through a couple more. Okay. Yeah. And again, Janath, big shout out to you, mate, because you did get to every one of the questions that we didn't get to last week. on the potty, a personal reply. So thank you, brother. I'll try to take over a little bit this week as well. And Spills, you
Great,
can even
great,
jump on for some advice if you've got
Yeah,
a
I'll
couple
have
of
a
minutes.
go at it.
Mate. So,
I'll have a go at it.
yeah, apologies
Yep.
to anyone that we don't get through tonight. There's some absolute legends and regulars, but we want to keep this to a certain time, guys. And you'll get one-on-one advice for us from us anyway. Danny, g'day, Danny. Hey, legends. Love the sword play and all the hard work you guys put in. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Really appreciate
Thinking
it.
of sidewaysing, trading Martin
Oh.
to Ridley or even McGovern. So Danny's got a bit of gut feel here that things aren't looking good for Nicky Boy, but I don't know if the Redmond
very
news
sideways.
may put you off from this, at least for the week. It's too
It would
sideways
put me
for
off doing it.
It's a big pod move, though. It's a big pod move.
Yeah,
I'm saying no.
If your team's done and if your team's done now and you've got them and you got the trades, because I genuinely think that Ridley is going to take 15 points off Martin for the rest of the season, which is so annoying. But that's just how it is. Getting all the kickouts, beautiful by foot. I know that. I love Ridley. Always good. Always just unbelievable ball use. We love him, but I'd probably as a Dons man. And as a nervous watcher at times, I'm much more comfortable with the ball in Ridley's hands. Just a beautiful use of the ball.
100%.
So going to lose the kick outs. So I do like the idea of cashing him out, but I think if you still need to upgrade and it's preventing you from progressing there, then it's a no. But I wouldn't rule it out completely.
Do you want a better alternative, Spills? And this is what I would be doing if you're not confident in Nick Martin, give him this week against Carlton. Yes, he may not go overly well, but it's not like he's putting out 60s. If you want to play next week, get in Jordan Clark or Dan Houston. Jordan Clark, 580k, last 3 games, all above 125.
Clark. So hot on him.
And he won't have the bye. Because when you trade in Ridley or McGovern as a sideways, you're going to have the bye next week anyway. So it's like, what's really the point? You trade out a player that's got a bye coming up for 2 players that also buys coming up. So in that sense,
you're going to get more points overall.
You
get way more points overall. So another fantastic point.
It's definitely a pod move next week. Possibly, like if teams want to do it, obviously you need to have some cash built up in the bank for it to get in Jordan Clark from Nick Martin. But that's something that could be done. Really
beautiful. Next one is from Silver Pigeon. Isaac Heaney. Fine to get this week, boys. It's a 137 break even. I'm going to say absolutely yes.
Please do it. Please do it.
Go for it. Get the man in.
DA, does this categorize as a behind the couch game if you don't have Heaney against Geelong?
Absolutely. And when we get to our
let yourself free,
section, he may feed the me.
Yes,
absolutely. Go for it, mate. All right, last 2 guys. Land of the Bishops. G'day, mate. G'day, fellas. I like a cheap defensive option from round 12 buy split with Salem till the season's end. I'm currently getting a lizard with Whitfield the only other likely candidate. Can Blakey hover around the D6 to 10 mark? I own Ryan Dacos, Houston Sheasel, and Martin. Cheers, blokes. I love the cheers, blokes. Thank you very much, mate. Look, I don't
Can
like
I jump
Whitfield.
in?
Please, Spills.
Yeah. If you be unsure about Whitfield, just watch George's last review, and he'll tell you all about him. He's like, he hates him. Can't stand him. I'd probably, if you're looking value, I loved Clark next week or like Nas after his bye. So Wanganeen Malira. So he's got I think it's 8 or 9 Marvel games in a row.
Crazy.
So he's someone that I'd love to get in my side to finish off the team. So they will be the 2 real standouts that I think can definitely push top 6 defender, if not top 7 or 8, particularly where they're priced at the moment. So they're the 2 that I'd recommend, mate.
Janath, any world where you can see, D6 to D10 average from here on out?
This week,
For who? For Blakey. Yeah, could happen. But again, I think the Sydney backline is a committee more than one. Like you have Brisbane with Zorko, you have North Melbourne with Fisher. Sydney's very similar to Carlton, I'd say. We're both there's no standout player that takes the kicks. Like even the key backs are trusted. Lewis Malikan, they're trusted with taking kicks as well. I don't think Blakey is going to be in that D6 to 10 range. It probably will, but I'm not confident in the pick. Honestly, I'm more confident in Lockie Whitfield, but he's probably going to get tagged in 3 more weeks against James Jordan. it's not great.
Yeah, terrible.
If you don't have Sack Fisher,
Yeah.
I would be happy with Sack Fisher as an option, even if it's in your defense temporarily.
And he can move him
Alrighty.
forward and then grab Clark
Yeah.
if you want
Yeah.
to.
All right, and last one, boys, from the Angry Chihuahua. Again, anyone that we didn't get to, absolutely guarantee we'll get to your comment. Thank you very much, and apologies for that. Legend is the Angry Man. Hey, guys, can't make up my mind on trades this round. Looking for your guidance. 1, Ridley or Neil, setting aside the upcoming buy. Isn't Ridley a better option? Number 2, is it worth swapping Marshall for English to raise a bit of cash? I would say no. Absolutely Marshall to English. I could see either one outscoring the other. I just would not be doing that, mate. I think you could be slapping yourself for doing that one. Ridley or Neil, look, it's very team dependent. You need that midfielder. You need that that defender. I like Neil. Boys, it's tough, Ridley versus Neil. We're all agreeing, obviously, we're not going the Marshall and English. We're not stuffed around there, are we? Surely not.
No.
No. Okay, let's rule that one out.
I go Neil over Ridley, I would say. So Ridley, like as good as he's been, has had 2 soft tissue quads in a row this year.
Yeah.
So
That's bad. Yeah.
You don't. It's really bad. So how long can you keep it up for? Great player. I love him. Look in the background, boys. My favorite player, but cannot stay on the park.
You beat me to it. I was literally just going to say, I'm going to send you down to number 9, mate, from Ridley. Damn it, you beat me to it.
Can I add a very just odd story here? But if you guys remember back a couple of years ago when Lockie Neal after his Brownlow, he was about 720k, and there were masses that were trading out Lockie Neal for Jordan Ridley, and Jordan Ridley got concussed for 18.
Spills.
So whenever I see Ridley and Neal in the same sentence, this is all that it brings memories back to.
Remember this, Spills? Do you remember that?
I do. I remember it very clearly because I remember watching him. I remember bringing him in and going to Essence St Kilda where he had an absolute field day, scored like 145, and I was just loving it. And the next week he got injured, so
far out.
Got concussed, so But Neil had a howler himself. Neil dropped almost 150k. So
he dropped money.
They both shut the bed, to be honest.
Let's hope it doesn't repeat.
Thanks again, guys, for your questions. On to the trades.
There's trades, boys. Have to chuck Oliver in there for Warner somehow.
Wow. Okay. Well,
love it.
I don't know, boys. Probably not.
Oh, look at that. Look at that, DR. We've got the same trades, mate.
Well, Janath, they say great minds think alike. I'm just jumping on
original.
your back here, I think, mate.
Love it.
So original, so conservative, original. You two. Take a punt.
Look at Spilsy going to 3 here. Look, for me, this could actually change. I've got the option of also bringing Dylan Moore in this week, so I can do that. Yeah. I don't know if I want another forward though. I could also afford to bring Jordan Ridley in as well. So, and that's for Hugo Garcia, mind you. So I could go Garcia to Moore or Garcia to Ridley as well. But I don't want to trade into that round 14 with Ridley. I'm just a little bit worried about that. But yeah, for me, Closey, he's done his job now. Wilson, I wish I could just keep him because I've got so much respect for the rising star of 2024. But with that break even, getting close to triple figures now, I don't want to lose too much coin on him. So I think it's time just to cash him out. And Dawson, I'm not huge on his role, particularly given the fact there's talk he's moving forward, or even if he gets a game this week. But I love his DPP, and I'm keen on keeping on Fisher and Sexton for the remainder of the season. So I think that just makes sense for me. Spilsy, talk us about your... Oh, sorry, we might go Janath very quickly because we've got the same trades, mate, and then go to Spilsy. Anything that you're thinking that I'm not with these particular trades yourself, mate?
No, that's perfect, mate. It was a very nervous watch because I got $900 in the bank, so you can imagine me ticking along, having already done the calculation how many points Closey needed. Closey needed 45 points, and he got there with a kick in the last quarter, and he did nothing. You're just crazy. Come on, Scaling. Do not do anything.
How's the anxiety watching that?
Anxiety.
That's awesome.
So that's to get locking. I mean, if Closey didn't get it, the decision was already made that I couldn't go Neil, basically. But basically, I'll just walk through the quick plan. So ranked at 288. So bringing in a primo this week for 17 primos on field, and then you got the Sexton, Sexton, Sullivan, Will Graham, Riley Garcia types as well, sort of rounding out the 21. Next week, I'm not planning to make any trades because I've got two Freo and 2 Port players coming off the bye. Houston, Ryan, Butters, Strong. There's no real Freo Port play I'm really looking to bring in at the moment. Not really keen on Nat Fyfe, Luke Jackson at the moment, unless Sean Darcy does something in training. And then round 15, where it gets a bit interesting because I'll bring in Zach Merritt, I'll bring in Charlie Curnow, and it may be that Jack Steele, who's got that round 15 buy, is a buy flip. So we were talking a bit before, haven't been impressed with Jack Steele. When he was on 6 at quarter time, I'm like, yeah, this is on. But I needed this big score, this 118 to be in his cycle so that I can cash him out at a decent price for Zach Merritt. That's probably the one sideways trade. And then in round 16, looking into bringing Isaac Rankin, Billy Dowling as the final upgrade. And cash, all things considered, this may be a bit of shout out to Abs Magic. This is very similar to the plan, like just planning weeks in advance right now. Connor Rozee at about 400k in round 17. Look to have the 23rd and then hopefully finish with 3 to 4 trades all up.
Wouldn't that be ideal if Connor Rozee somehow got DP? I know he can't, but wouldn't that just be the best, wouldn't it? But well, yeah, like the future plan and Janath, very good, mate. And that's why you are where you're at. Spills, we've talked about how great and knowledgeable and intelligent this man is. His team's worth over 13-point-something mil, and he gets his trades within the $900 mark. That's how good this man is here, mate. Let me tell you.
He's unbelievable, isn't he?
Tell us about what you're doing, mate. You're splurging a little bit more than us this week and taking advantage of these 3 trades. Tell us how you're going shopping, brother.
So this looks extremely aggressive, but trust me, it isn't. So I've got 9 trades in the bank now. With these trades being finalised, I'm probably I do like to take advice off people who know the game and what 2 blokes know the game. Sort of persuade me away from Alir. So I'll probably go McMullen instead. But as a result, all 3 of these blokes need to leave because they're going to leak cash. Like Darcy suspended.
Yep.
They've all got to go. Otherwise, it's cash gen. So if I go McMullen now over Lecalier, I'd have over 300k, which means next week, using just 1 trade, I'll be able to get rid of Moyle, which has just worked out perfectly. He'll be around 300k himself, and I'll be able to use a bit of DPP, get Dogger in there somehow, and then get Clark probably to finish my defense, or elect to go for a ruckman. I like Clark because he's got such a low break even. So I've only got 2 more upgrades to go, boys. I need a ruckman and I need a defender. So that's sort of where I'm at. And probably another forward to flip Sexton. So 3 overall. So yeah, it looks really aggressive. 3 trades this week, but they're 3 blokes who I reckon you talk about the must-haves in Supercoach, but you also got to talk about the must-trades. And I couldn't think of any reason to hold any 3 of these blokes. Any one of them, they've got to go.
Can I give
you next week,
some devil's advocate spills on one of them?
Oh, I'd rather you didn't, but fire away, mate.
Sam Darcy.
Just leave me in peace, Janath.
Sam Darcy. Now, you're saying
let me do my
let me play. I'm just saying, I'm going to help you here, all right? Wait, hold on.
Okay.
Leave it.
All right.
Sam Darcy's got a break even 93, but that man's not going to move. He's suspended. He's not going to play. It's not going to drop him cash. So you can hold Darcy if you've got 22 this week and trade Oliver to Warner if you really wanted to this week and use Darcy to get to whoever you want next week.
Oh, he's tempting him.
Fuck.
You can see the cogs.
But this is just a general thing. I don't think Sam Darcy's a must trade. If he was playing this week,
should I take advice from a bloke who's ranked 300th, DR?
You're in decent hands, mate.
Do you want my password to me Supercoach channel? If you can bloody do a trade yourself, I won't even bother each week.
Sam Darcy is not a must trade this week. That's my hot take. It's not even a hot take. He's not going to move price this week. The other 2,
that's a great point. That's a great point. Oh,
it's a decent week to have someone suspended because you
probably want the on-field cover.
But if you've got 2021, it probably doesn't make a difference, does it? Probably Sam Darcy wasn't probably going to be in your best 18 anyway.
Oh, Is Warner like is he the real deal though?
That's
like,
the question. That's the question that is hard to answer. That's a gut call, I reckon.
He's better
I
than
love
all of
it.
us.
I love it.
Better than all of us.
There's been a spanner thrown in late for Bills.
I'm not
gonna
throwing.
play
I'm just showing you a different way to see these trades. That's all.
All right. Well,
very good.
Spilsy, some food for thought, brother. Let's finish it up,
Big
boys,
time.
with the Capitano's corner. Spilsy's just recovering from this quick conversation, and he's on his phone right now, seeing if Warner can fit in.
I'm trying to work out these trades, so take us.
I knew he'd have his phone. See, I knew he'd have his phone out. I knew it. There he goes in the phone. Yeah.
I'll show you what the end result looks like.
Yeah. All right. Just make sure you get your captain right this week. Shout out to you again, Mr. Bontempelli. Thank you very much, my man. Nick Dacos, who? Nick who?
Nick Dacos.
Come on, boys. Should have been on the bomb. All right, Janath. Take us through this, mate. You and Roscoe again. Shout out. We saw Roscoe on the Wall of Fame as well with his Swordplay beanie. So one of our brothers on the channel as well. Great work from you guys always at the third man up. Tell us about our options for this week, my man.
Yeah, some very good options. I'm just going to go straight to the bottom row there. Max Gawn, I'm pretty confident as a captaincy option this week. He is going to bounce back. We saw what Tim English did to Darcy Cameron last week. If there's more for bounce back game than this week, I would love for someone to let me know, because 92-point demolition, you could see the disappointment in Gawn's face that he couldn't do more. This week is the week, I reckon. They bounce back. Melbourne have a big win against Collingwood on King's birthday. So I'm just going to put that right there. If we have a look at the earlier options, Jordan Dawson, do you trust the foot? It's a bit hard one. The matchup is there. The Bont, again, question mark regarding team sheet. So if Lib and Richards are named and a key forward isn't named, that's probably alarm bell starting to ring. Okay, is that the Bont going forward like it did against Sydney a couple of weeks ago? Luke Davies-Uniacke against West Coast. You can see that green row. It's the most green, I'd say, on this actual document here. So that's a great matchup against West Coast. No Harley Reid as well. So should be no Tim Kelly. So it should be a plus matchup for him. We got Rowan Marshall going up against Ned Moyle. And you could even say Ned Moyle going up against Rowan Marshall in the same sentence.
Chuck the VC on Neddy. Go on, Spills.
In that matchup, we got a player that has not sub-tonned all year, Sammy Flanders. So Ned Flanders going up against St Kilda, possible VC option. We know that St Kilda's been a bit of an overrated matchup for designated kickers in the last couple of weeks. So just want to toy around with, but DR, it's going to be a bit hard to go past Heaney, Grundy, Warner types on the Sunday, isn't it, as your VC?
Absolutely. I'm just looking at Brodie Grundy there. Tell you what, and I'd have the money to do it as well, to go from Moyle straight to Grundy, but it just wouldn't be worth it. I love this matchup this week for Brodie Grundy. I really do. But Isaac Heaney for me is so hard to go past. The only thing that concerns me about Flanders is that I think he's like, if you just want a super safe captaincy option, then just fall back on Flanders. As a VC, we're really looking for that ceiling and upside, and I don't really see Flanders one of those folks.
He hasn't gone above 130, but he said 4 scores between 124 and 128.
Exactly, and that is so safe as a captain. So if you want to fall back, 5. Wow, it's like Sheasel at the start of the year. Like if you just wanted an easy fullback captain when he was in defence, like just go him. But for me, mate, I like the look of Isaac Heaney as my VC. It's pretty much locked in at this stage. The big decision for me is on that Queen's birthday game, Maxi versus Nick. Jeez, it's hard to go past Dacos.
We'll have the last minute. It'll be till the last minute to make that decision as well, because you've got these buy players. You can just flick it around, do a coin toss, figure out if it comes down to. I think one of you two boys did a coin toss one time. Figure out your captain, didn't you?
We did, mate.
I did last year.
Yeah, that's it.
But let's be honest, boys. We're hoping that Isaac Heaney is our VC. We're not even going to have to worry about that captain. So, any different to you, Janath? What are you looking to go yourself, mate?
Yeah, looking to go Heaney into Gawn and just, at the moment. But just very quickly, Sack Merritt, likely Alex Chincotta tag outside a set of bounces. So that's something we've been operating. So Chincotta's sort of graduated from small forwards in terms of Papley and Keziah Pickett, and now he's gone. Last 2 weeks, he's effectively shut down Tuke Miller and Zach Butters to sub 100 scores. And I think you don't fix what's not broken. It's pretty obvious that Zach Merritt's going to cop it from Chincotta this week. And then, Sam Walsh could be in for a big game against Essendon as well. But one of Dacos or Gorn looks like a safe fallback captaincy option.
Isn't Janath laughing on the inside? No, Carlton are playing Essendon. He's not a Zerodona. Look at him just laughing on the inside, laughing at us.
I'm not confident. Not confident
as an
at all.
supporter and a Zerodona. I don't know if I deal with this personally, mate. But anyway,
he's a good bloke.
No offense. No offense,
He's a good bloke.
Great bloke. Great bloke. Great bloke. Fantastic captain. But I can't argue with Janath. Like I did say I've been saying this all year. We're second on the ladder, but the lid's not off unless we beat Carlton on King's Eve, and I'm not confident. But if we do, like, I'm going to be pretty chirpy next week. But
he's going to be pretty chirpy next week.
I'm not.
I might have to take annual
leave. You might have to, mate. You might have to have a rest, have a chop out, mate, because
have a chop out.
And maybe I might have to as well if the Dons turn up, or, in an ordinary manner.
DR might be going solo.
Yeah, I'll just do it, boy.
What if it's a draw?
Don't worry about rocking up.
What if
let's go for the draw. That'd be interesting. Spilsy, how about you, mate? Where are you going, buddy?
Well, yeah, originally I had it sort of on Bont, very safe, but I do like the Heaney upside against Geelong. That's pretty hard to overlook, so yeah, probably might go there. I'm not really sure. Like, the way Bont's been playing, just so consistent. So yeah, he's definitely one I've really flirted with.
Bont's into Heaney, maybe skip Dacos, Gorn.
Yeah, because we've Gorn, Dacos, they're so very, like, which are you going to nail it? Which one's good? I like them both. I probably like Dacos a little bit more in current form, but Gorn as well. Like, it's not an easy choice.
Do you know that the problem for me with Heaney is his first 5 games were all above 128? So they're all captaincy, vice captaincy scores. His last 6 scores have all been under 121, which are not in that captaincy, vice captaincy range. So it's like,
right,
is it a safe as saying that Heaney VC bang? But I mean, it's just a VC. I wouldn't captain Isaac Heaney. Is probably what I'm leaning. Okay. That's what I'm leaning towards. Just
I captained him straight up against West Coast. I did captain him, and as good as it went, it felt
his form then
didn't feel right,
top notch.
But it didn't feel right though.
Post by Heaney, he's losing ground in the coaches award as well. He was first for a very long time now. Dacos is catching up. I think we're going to see a big Heaney game though against Geelong, mate.
Yeah, I'll probably go VC Heaney into Dacos or Gorn. Might have to flip another coin. We'll see, but I think can't go too badly wrong with Heaney.
You know what, Spills? You should flip a coin. You should do it. And you should go into the ice bath as well.
We'll take your word for it. No, it's a tough week for captains anyway. So we'll see what happens. I'll go show you something. I don't know if you guys can see this. Please focus.
Oh no, 56K.
So that's Wilson.
That's
Wilson. So Wilson out, Oliver out, Closey out, Warner in, Neil in, and that's how much I've got for a rookie. So it's not.
You have minus 56K for a rookie.
You want a 50% bloody discount on a mid-season pick here, mate? Get out of it, Spills. That's a little bit cheeky there, mate.
So Janath, look, I think I'll be. Yeah.
I think you're gonna have to.
How
good
with that? Like, can you do the sideways? Probably gonna have to hold, unfortunately. But I really like that thought, Janath. Well done, but just a bit short, mate.
Well done.
Well done.
It's like a school teacher giving you a tick of approval.
Right?
Yeah, it's nice feedback.
Give yourself the credit where it's due, Janath. You are the professor, but you still need the recognition because it's it doesn't go overlooked. That's for damn sure.
Absolutely.
Well, it was a podcast filled with good laughs as always. Spills, you joined us a bit late, but we covered through the Big 7. The Big 7, we discussed all the big injury news, the key rookies for this week. There's not much on the horizon, I guess, either. We went through all your mailbag questions, but most of all, we had fun doing it. So thank you all for tuning in. Any last advice, boys, from you two about the second of the bye rounds? Fremantle and Port Adelaide on the bye, just as a heads up. Again, any last advice or words of wisdom?
Oh, look, I think that it's a pretty easy one coming up, I think, for most teams. What I'd be looking at is how are you looking for your next 2 weeks? So this is a point in time where I think within the next month, we'll have completed teams. Make sure that you're planning out your future trades. Don't look too short term. You run out of cash all of a sudden, you can't make your upgrades. Make sure that you're focusing on your future planning right now and work out what your ideal team wants to look like at the end of the bye rounds. That's probably what I'd say. And Spilsy, you're going to leave us, mate, with some absolute words of wisdom here, I'm sure. You've got an absolute pearler coming up, Spills. No pressure, mate.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say it's a tough buy, but I've got 2 premiums with a buy in round 15, so I'm not doing too bad. But to finish us off, geez, you put me under the pump. I'd probably say, back your gut with your trades. Don't let anyone talk you out what you want to do, like what Janath tried to do with me moments ago. I'll go back myself.
And... He's having a crack. The man's trying to help him out. Like,
no,
I'm never giving you trade advice again, Spills.
No, sorry. That came out completely wrong. I've just been thrown under the bus. Let me start over again. Let me start.
He gives you a drive, boy. You are the bus driver, Spills. What are you talking about, mate?
I use some words of wisdom. If you're going to start a podcast, don't finish on what I would say. That's terrible. I'm sorry, Janath.
You know what they say: a bird in the hand is worth 2 in a bush.
That's it. That's why Janath needs to finish off the podcast with the one-liners, because that is an absolute cracker. I live by that motto, mate.
I'll finish off on a quote. I love a good quote. Don't be afraid to take the first step, even when you don't see the full staircase. Cheerio. We'll see you guys next week. Go Blues.